Ashley, welcome back to a new video. Today's video is so exciting. Today is the 10-year anniversary of the day I got this passport. I have had a passport for 10 years. I'm so excited. So I just want to celebrate the first 10 years of travel by making this video, and I'm just going to be talking about all of the international travel experiences that I've gotten to have in those 10 years. And if you can see closely, this has hole punches through it because I have officially retired it and I got a new one. This is the new one. It is no stamps in it. But we'll get to that later. My high school homeroom teacher, who was also a social studies teacher, had this tradition of taking students to Europe every year because he's a social studies teacher, a history teacher, and he just wanted to give students the opportunity. Also, I think he went for free, so maybe that's what he was doing. Maybe he was hustling us. Probably not. Anyways, he would just handpick students that he liked. I was in his homeroom. I also was really involved in FCA, and he was one of the teachers in charge of that, so I knew him really well. And he invited me to go. So this was the summer before my senior year of high school, I think. So I remember the day that Coach Morris invited me to go to Europe, and I was really excited, but I don't think at that point I had really thought about traveling much, and so I wasn't really sure my parents were gonna let me. But by the time I got home that night, my dad had already found out about it, and he called me. I don't know where he was. I guess he wasn't home yet. And he said, "I'm so excited you got invited to go to Europe. It's gonna be so great. I went to Europe in college and you're gonna love it." And I was really surprised, thinking, wow, my dad is so on board. Like, I guess I'm going, yay. And so I went with about 20 other classmates. Most of them were my best friends, so it was super fun. We flew into London and we went to Paris. And I remember that being my favorite part of the trip, was those two big cities, because later on in life I would realize that I love big cities. And then we went on to more Central Europe, like Austria and Germany and Switzerland. I remember some of my friends were fighting at the time about random stuff, and so I remember that being a real big drain on the experience. I remember loving the beginning, and then the second half I was like, okay, let's go home. A standout memory from that trip is I remember being kind of shocked by how much things cost. Like, I didn't know there weren't free refills in other countries. And I remember that one time I had to pay for ketchup, and I think I like made one of my Facebook albums for the trip, like, why isn't the ketchup free? Like, that was just like a standout observation for my 17-year-old self at the time, was you have to pay for ketchup in Europe. Probably not in all of Europe, probably just the one restaurant I was at, but that just struck me as fascinating. After that, I don't really remember having big travel goals, but I do remember making, I had to make a biography about myself for this film class I was taking in high school, and I do remember including in there that I wanted to travel all over the world. And I don't remember if that was like a genuine desire or if I just put it in because it sounded cool, but I do remember saying, like, one of my life goals is to travel. So I really didn't travel internationally again after that for about 4 years. So exactly 4 years later, the summer before my senior year of college, I decided to study abroad in China. This was an interesting decision. And I think the way I arrived at this decision was the summer before I had interned in DC, and I had really caught the intern bug. I was like, oh yeah, I really do not want to waste my time. I want to have as many internships as possible. I want to work as much as possible. If you've watched my testimony video, you'll understand why I felt this way. But I also was really interested in studying abroad. I really wanted to travel. At that point, I was interested. I knew I had friends that had traveled. And so I was looking for all these opportunities where I could intern abroad, because I just felt like studying abroad was a waste of my time. I needed to intern. And I couldn't find any programs that would really work for me, that really made sense. One day I was sitting in my marketing class, and another marketing teacher, Dr. Padgett, came in. He pitched this new program that the marketing department was putting on, where they were hosting internship programs in Ireland and China. And so I was like, yes, 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 exactly what I want. And so I went to his office, ready to sign up for the Ireland trip. And somehow, in his marketing prowess, he convinced me to sign up for the China trip. So it makes sense that he's a professional marketer, because at the end of our meeting, he had me convinced that if I didn't study abroad in China or intern abroad in China, I would literally like fail at life. Like, that is how he made me feel. The China trip was new and he was really trying to push it. I think he really wanted to teach in China or something. I don't know, I think it mattered to him a lot that the China trip happened, and so he was really trying to get people on board, and he convinced me, and I signed up, and I to this day can't even believe it. So me and like 24 other Auburn business students, actually I wasn't a business student, I was the only liberal arts student. I was studying public relations, and everyone else was in the business college, but they were all studying marketing at least a little bit in some capacity. So this was a really interesting experience because I had never, other than the Europe trip where I was with a teacher the entire time, I hadn't really spent a lot of time abroad, definitely hadn't been to Asia. I wasn't really into Asia at all. I didn't like eat Asian food or know much about it, and I think that China is definitely a difficult place to be in general, especially if you aren't used to traveling or leaving the United States. So it was rough. The program wasn't like completely fleshed out. We were like the pioneer program, and so we didn't really get to intern like I wanted. It was kind of more like projects or like being consultants for companies, but we didn't know anything. I always called us like really unqualified consultants. We did get to go to the office. I worked with this like Dutch insurance company that was in Chengdu, China, and so we did get to go into the office a number of times, but we never actually did work for them. We just kind of did a project and we did research, and then we came up with this report and we presented it to him at the end of the experience. So it wasn't really interning, I would say. I would call it more studying abroad, but it was a really interesting experience. We each had a roommate that was Chinese and was also in college. My roommate's name was actually Julius, so that was funny. We kind of had the same name. Well, that was like her English name that she picked. But we did spend a week in Shanghai, and we got to visit a bunch of cool companies like BBDO. I remember that was fascinating. I still remember all the things they told us about Chinese marketing. We also spent a week in Beijing, just kind of having fun and sightseeing. We also went to Lishan and saw the giant Buddha. We went to the Great Wall of China. And so I would say it was a really cool cultural exchange experience. Learned a lot about marketing, learned a lot about just like being abroad in the world in general, and it was fun. It was a really cool experience. I'm glad I got to have it, but it was really tough. I remember I was super frustrated. I remember thinking that China smelled bad and I didn't like the food, and it was really hard. No offense to China, I'm sorry, but when the experience was over, I kind of chalked it up and I was like, you know what? I don't like Asia. I just decided that I didn't like the entire continent. And I was like, I don't like Asian food. I'm just not an Asia person, which is like so ridiculous. I went to one country in Asia, which does not represent the entire massively diverse continent. But that's how I felt for a couple of years. So that entire summer that I was in China, I swear to you, everyone and their brother was studying abroad in Europe. And I was so jealous, and so the whole next year, my senior year of college, I made it a priority that I wanted to go to Europe after I graduated. I looked into all these different opportunities of how I could travel around Europe after I graduated, and I tried to recruit friend after friend after friend, and like nobody in the end could commit to going with me. I think people were really scared about like, what am I gonna do after graduation? I'm not gonna have any money, I need to get a job. And I was just like, I don't care. This is important. I need to go to Europe. And luckily I ended up getting a job offer before I graduated, and I didn't have to start until September. So I ended up right at the end of college, like around April, I ended up realizing I had 4 whole months to go to Europe, and I was just like, how is this happening? Everything I wanted is happening. It was awesome. My original plan before I left the country was to go on a 21-day bus tour with this company called Top Deck, which I love, highly recommend. Top Deck is an Australian bus tour company for 18 to 35-year-olds, and it's such a good option if you are traveling alone. Such a big advocate of them. And so my plan was to go on a 21-day tour with them, and then I was gonna teach English at this random like art school in the mountains of Assisi, Italy. I found the opportunity through this website called Helper Exchange, and basically for room and board I was gonna teach English with them at this camp. And so I thought, wow, this is gonna be a sick experience. And so the Top Deck tour was amazing. I feel like I've talked about it before. It was 21 days. I made amazing friends. This was my first time getting exposed to like Australian Kiwi culture. I remember having so many funny, like confusing interactions with them. Like one time someone was trying to spell something to me and they were like blah 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 Zed. And I was like, what are you saying? And they said Zed. I said, what are you saying? Are you saying Zed? And they were like, yeah, Zed like zebra, Zed like zebra. And I was like, I don't know what that is. And then the person started laughing and they're like, oh, you're American. Z. I didn't know that other people in the world said Z instead of Z, or H instead of H. I also remember one time I was boarding a bus and somebody said, "Good morning, Julia, how are you going?" And I was like, what? How am I going? Are we not all going on the bus? I was like so confused. Apparently like how are you going just means like, how are you doing? What's up? And I was so confused. I was like, I am going on the bus with you. Is there another option? And so after that I went to Assisi and I went to teach English. This was an interesting experience. It was advertised to me as I would do 3 hours of work a day and then I could have the rest of the day off. I could have the weekends off. And so I pictured myself traveling on the weekends. I pictured myself bopping around town during the day. But this was simply not the case. This was kind of like a homemade art school taught by an American, but she had been living in Italy for 10 years. And she's a wonderful person, but she's not really a businesswoman, and she was kind of chaotic, and it really like stressed me out. And the commitment was not 3 hours a day, it was more like 24 hours a day, and so I was always with the kids, and if the kids were sleeping I had to make sure they didn't like escape or they didn't get hurt, and so I was constantly taking care of the kids. And it was a really cool experience. I got to teach English through plays, so my job was to put on skits with the kids and help them make costumes and props, and that was really cute and fun. And we would cook with the kids, we would make gnocchi. It was really cool, but it was way bigger of a commitment than I was looking for. So after 5 weeks, instead of 3 months, I decided to cut it in half. I decided to leave. I had to kind of like break up with the camp director and be like, I'm gonna go. I actually vlogged all of my time in Europe was when I first started vlogging, so I'll link that down below. They're like filmed on an iPhone and edited on iMovie, and it's the worst, but it's the best, so I'll link that down below if you want to watch those videos. They have like 200 views each. The whole reason I remember wanting to start going to Europe was when I was a freshman in college. I remember reading in my Spanish textbook about the Tomatina festival, and it's this giant tomato fight in Buñuel, Spain. And basically like 30,000 people come and throw tomatoes at each other, and I just felt I had to be there. And so that's kind of where my desire to travel to Europe started. It was the very last thing I did before I went home, and that was super meaningful to me. I felt really accomplished, like way to cap off this incredible experience. I was really proud of myself just for making that all happen for myself. After that summer, that was it. I was done. I was obsessed with travel. There were no more ifs, ands, or buts about it. It was like unescapable. I loved traveling and I had to see the world. And so I know I really struggled with coming back after that. I just wanted to be traveling. I didn't really care about any of the stuff I was doing. It was hard to adjust to living in DC after that. Eventually I did, and you can hear more about that in my testimony, and it was super awesome. But I was just like, oh, my head is spinning. I just want to see the whole world. And so after I lived in DC for a summer, I had met a friend named Chelsea, and she loved to travel too, and so we decided to go backpacking to Central America. That was probably my first like really good vlog series that I was super proud of. So that'll of course be linked down below if you want to check it out. This was just, it was awesome. We got along really well. This was my first time really experiencing like backpacking culture, because in Europe it was a bit more bougie and I had a suitcase and I didn't really feel like a backpacker. Also at this point in my life I had become a Christian again, and I was really interested to see like how I would balance traveling culture, which can be like kind of like intense, with following Christ. And I remember God really pursuing my heart on that trip, like showing me, you know, you can like be in this kind of culture and you can enjoy yourself, but you don't have to necessarily associate the way you used to, which is a really cool lesson. And I had a really good time on that trip, but after I kind of felt like, oh, I really want to do something else. Like there's like some kind of other traveling I want to do, but I don't know what it is. I was like wanting something else. And so around that time is when I heard of the world race. I remember my friend Lauren Massey, who was in my sorority in college, she posted on social media, Facebook, that she was going on the world race. And I was like, what are you talking about? You're going to 11 countries and in each country for a month? Like, you're what? And you're gonna be doing mission work and you're gonna be telling people about Jesus? And I was like, wait, I have to do this too. But I'm scared, freaked out, not doing it. I remember telling Chelsea that night, I was like, I have to do this. And she was like, you have to do that. And I remember telling my roommate Katie at the time, I was like, I have been wanting to do something else, like with traveling, something more meaningful, but I just didn't really know what I was thinking. And this is it. Like, I want to go and like focus on people and meet people, and I want to tell them about Jesus, and I want to grow in my faith, and this is what I was like feeling like I needed to do. But I was totally freaked out about it, and I had actually just started a job, and so I had to work up the courage through reading blogs and kind of realize that it didn't matter that I had never done mission work before. It didn't matter that I had like just kind of become a Christian again. It didn't matter that I didn't really know anything about the Bible, and I didn't know how to preach, and I was afraid to pray out loud. But I was gonna go. And wow, best decision of my life. I won't really talk about the race too much because obviously it is super well documented. So when I was in month 8 of my world race, I was in the New York airport. We were traveling from Africa to the Caribbean, and I was doing a Skype call with my storytelling coach, John Frank, and I told him, I was like, you know, I have this idea. I kind of want to put together like a team of people to go back out on the field and film stories. Like, I know there's a program called Kingdom Journeys. This could be like Kingdom Journey Storytellers. What do you think? And he was like, that's amazing. I've been wanting to do that for years. Like, I'll help you write a proposal and I'll help like push it through. And I was like, oh, okay. So that next month when I was in the DR, and actually that month I had to make 4 documentaries, so this was kind of stressful, but I put together a proposal, I sent it to him, and he was amazing, and he just like champions the whole thing, and he got it to all the right people, and there's no way Kingdom Journey Storytellers would have ever happened without him. Around like August or July, I don't really remember, I then was able to come to the office and start working there full-time to build the trip, and I stayed in the office in Georgia for 5 months, like recruiting people and building the trip and figuring everything out, robot. And then we launched on the trip, the 7 of us, in January of this year. We went to 3 countries, Thailand, Cambodia, Myanmar. This is super recent. I feel like you guys know this already. I won't talk about it too much. Also, super well documented, vlogged the whole thing. And we filmed what ended up being a 6-part docu-series about the different squads, and what they were doing on the race. And that actually just came out, so if you want to watch that, I'll link that down below too. The description box is just gonna be popping, guys, with lots of things to watch. So everything that I was responsible for editing, I wrapped up for the most part at the end of May, and I was super tired. Filming this trip in Asia was not a vacation. It was a lot of work, it was very stressful, and I just wanted to go back to Europe. I just wanted to go on a vacation, do some like fun traveling just for me. And again, nobody could come with me. It was too short notice, and so I decided to just go to Ireland by myself. I ended up buying a ticket with like very little advance notice. 1 week later, I was on the plane and I went to Ireland for 10 days. So that was in May of this year, and that was the last time I left the country. But I don't know when I'll travel again, which is weird. I really want to go to South America. I also really want to go to Morocco, Japan, Australia, New Zealand. Those are my tops. Those are my tops right now. And so this is an empty passport, and hopefully it will be filled up in the next 10 years that I have it. So thank you so much for watching this video. That is the official breakdown celebration of my first 10 years of travel. I'm really excited. I'm glad this one came safely back to me because it means a lot to me. And I'm excited about the future with this new one. Thank you for watching all my travel vlogs, if you've ever seen them before, if you're about to watch them. And here's to more traveling, more travel vlogs, more storytelling, more passport stamps, and just the future. Bye, guys.
And if you want it, come and get it. Crying out loud. Let go.